Maya's hands trembled as she stared at the notification on her phone screen. The message was simple, direct, and completely surreal. $500 for 3 hours. Dinner, no questions asked. Except, she sat on the edge of her twin bed in the cramped studio apartment she shared with her younger sister. The wall so thin she could hear Mrs. Chen arguing with her husband next door. The ceiling had a brown water stain that looked like a map of some forgotten country, and the faucet in the bathroom dripped every 4 seconds. She'd counted it so many times she didn't even hear it anymore. But $500? That would cover 2 weeks of groceries, part of the electric bill, and maybe, just maybe, she could buy Lily new shoes for school instead of gluing the soles of her old ones back together for the 3rd time. Maya had signed up for the app 3 days ago. Companion Connect, a service where people hired someone to accompany them to events, dinners, or social gatherings. No physical contact required. No expectations beyond conversation and presence. It sounded legitimate enough, and God knew she needed the money. She'd been working double shifts at the diner on 5th Avenue, serving coffee to businessmen who barely looked at her and tourists who left crumpled dollar bills as tips. Her feet ached constantly. Her back screamed every time she bent over, and still, it wasn't enough. The rent was due in 5 days. Lily needed her asthma medication. Their mother's nursing home bill sat on the kitchen counter like a silent accusation, the red overdue stamp mocking her every time she walked past it. So Maya did what desperation demanded. She clicked accept. Within seconds, another message appeared. Rosewood Hotel, 8-fold restaurant, 7 p.m. Wear something elegant. Address will be provided. Her stomach twisted. Address would be provided? What kind of person did that? But then the notification sound chimed again, and her bank app showed a deposit, $250, half up front. Maya's breath caught in her throat. It was real. The money was actually real. She had 4 hours to get ready. The down the Uber dropped her off in front of the Rosewood Hotel at exactly 6:55 p.m. Maya stepped out onto the sidewalk, her cheap boots clicking against the pavement, and tilted her head back to take in the building. It stretched toward the sky like a monument to wealth she'd only ever seen in movies. Golden lights, revolving glass doors. A doorman in a pristine uniform who looked like he earned more in a week than she did in 2 months. A woman in a sleek black suit approached her immediately. Maya Torres? She nodded, unable to find her voice. Follow me, please. They didn't go through the main entrance. Instead, the woman led her around the side of the building, through a service door and up a private elevator. No words were exchanged. No explanations offered. Maya's heart pounded so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. The elevator doors opened into a suite that looked like it belonged in a different universe. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park, the city lights twinkling like scattered diamonds. A cream-colored sofa that probably cost more than her entire year's rent sat in the center of the room, and on a velvet hanger near the window hung a dress. Midnight blue, simple but elegant, the kind of thing she'd never even dared to touch in a store. You have 20 minutes, the woman said, gesturing toward a door. Bathroom's there. Everything you need is inside. He'll meet you downstairs at 7:15. And then she was gone. Maya stood frozen for a moment, her mind racing. Who was this person? Why all the secrecy? What had she actually agreed to? But the money was already in her account, and Lily needed those shoes. She moved toward the bathroom. The dress fit perfectly, too perfectly, as if someone had known her exact measurements. It hugged her waist and fell just below her knees, elegant without being revealing. There were shoes too, simple black heels that didn't murder her feet the way she'd expected, and jewelry. A delicate silver necklace and matching earrings that looked real but couldn't possibly be. Maya stared at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman looking back. Her dark hair, usually thrown into a messy ponytail, now fell in soft waves around her shoulders. The dress made her look like she belonged in this world of marble floors and crystal chandeliers, but her eyes gave her away. They were tired, scared, the eyes of someone who knew exactly how precarious her life was, and how one wrong move could send everything crashing down. At 7:14, her phone buzzed. Elevator, now. She obeyed. The restaurant on the ground floor was the kind of place where the silverware probably had a pedigree. Soft piano music floated through the air. Waiters moved like synchronized dancers. Every table was occupied by people who looked like they'd never worried about a bill in their entire lives. Maya's escort, a different woman this time, older, with sharp eyes, led her to a private corner booth partially hidden by a decorative screen. He'll be here in 2 minutes. Sit. Smile. Let him lead the conversation. And then she disappeared into the crowd. If this part already has you hooked, tell me from which place in the world you're listening to this. Maya sat down, her hands folded in her lap to keep them from shaking. She counted her breaths, tried to calm the war happening inside her chest. Who pays $500 for a dinner companion? What does he want? What if this is dangerous? What if... Sorry, I'm late. The voice was warm, slightly apologetic, and came from directly behind her. Maya turned her head and felt the world tilt sideways. The man standing there, tall, dark hair falling just slightly over his forehead, wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit, was Ethan Cole. Ethan fucking Cole, the actor, the one whose face was plastered on billboards across Times Square, the one who'd just starred in that blockbuster superhero movie that broke every box office record, the one whose Instagram had 20 million followers and whose smile had probably launched 1,000 magazine covers. He was looking directly at her, and for a split second something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or recognition of her shock, before he slid into the booth across from her. "You okay?" he asked quietly. Maya's brain had short-circuited. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Yeah. He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "I know. That's kind of why I'm here." A waiter appeared instantly, filling their water glasses, reciting specials in a tone that suggested every dish cost more than her monthly grocery budget. Ethan ordered for both of them without asking. Not in a controlling way, but like someone who'd done this 1,000 times and knew exactly how to navigate these spaces. When the waiter left, Ethan leaned back and studied her. Really studied her. Not in the way men at the diner did, with dismissive glances or hungry stares, but like he was trying to figure out a puzzle. "You're not what I expected," he said finally. Maya found her voice. "What did you expect? Someone more, I don't know, polished? Practiced? You look terrified." "I am terrified." The honesty seemed to surprise him. He laughed. A real laugh, not the practiced Hollywood kind she'd seen in interviews. "At least you're honest. That's rare in my world. Why am I here?" The question came out sharper than she'd intended. "Why would someone like you need to hire this?" Ethan's smile faded. He glanced toward the entrance, then back at her, and something heavy settled in his expression. "Because 3 days ago, my publicist informed me that the press thinks I'm a recluse with commitment issues. Apparently, being photographed alone at events makes me emotionally unavailable and bad for my brand. So I need to be seen with someone real, someone who isn't part of the industry. So you paid for me." "I paid for your time," he corrected gently. "There's a difference." Maya wanted to argue, but the food arrived. Plates of things she couldn't even name, arranged like art. Ethan picked up his fork and she followed his lead, her movements careful, self-conscious. They ate in silence for a moment. And then he said, "Tell me something true, something you wouldn't tell anyone else." She looked up at him, startled. "Why?" "Because I'm tired of fake conversations. And you," he gestured at her with his fork, "you're the first person in months who's looked at me like I'm a regular person and not a walking merchandise opportunity." Maya set down her fork. Her hands were steadier now. "You want something true?" "Yeah. I'm here because my little sister needs shoes. Because my mom is in a nursing home I can't afford. Because I work 14-hour days and it's still not enough. Because $500 means I get to sleep tonight without wondering if we'll be evicted next week." The words hung in the air between them, raw and unfiltered. Ethan didn't look away, didn't offer pity or empty reassurances. He just nodded slowly. "Okay, that's true. Your turn," Maya said, surprised by her own boldness. He smiled, but there was something sad in it. "I'm here because I don't trust anyone anymore. Because every person I meet wants something from me. Because I'm so fucking lonely I paid a stranger to have dinner with me just so I could pretend for a few hours that someone might actually see me and not just Ethan Cole, the brand." The vulnerability in his voice was so unexpected, so genuine, that Maya forgot to be afraid. And in that moment something shifted. They talked for 2 hours. Not about movies or fame or the things that made him a celebrity, but about real things, small things. He told her about growing up in a tiny town in Montana, about his dad who'd worked at a hardware store and taught him how to fix cars. She told him about Lily, about how she'd practically raised her sister after their mom got sick, about the diner and the regulars who sometimes left an extra dollar because they knew she needed it. It was the strangest, most honest conversation Maya had ever had with someone she'd just met. And when the check came, discreetly delivered in a leather folder, Ethan signed it without even looking at the total. He stood, offering his hand to help her up, and his touch was warm, steady. "Can I ask you something?" he said as they walked toward the exit. "Sure. Would you do this again? Not for the money? Well, okay. I'll still pay you because that's the arrangement. But would you have dinner with me again? Just talk?" Maya should have said no, should have walked away, taken the money and never looked back. But there was something in his eyes, something real and desperate and human, that made her hesitate. "Why?" she asked. "Because you're the first person in 2 years who hasn't asked me for a selfie. And because," he paused, searching for the right words, "because I think you might be the only honest person I've met in this city." Maya thought about Lily's shoes, about the nursing home bill, about the fact that $500 could become $1,000, could become stability, could become a way out of the endless cycle of exhaustion and fear. But more than that, she thought about the way he'd listened when she spoke, the way he hadn't flinched when she told him the truth about her life. "Okay," she said quietly. "One more time." Ethan's smile was genuine this time, reaching his eyes. "Thank you." They walked out together, and as the doorman opened the glass doors, a flash went off, then another, then a dozen more. Photographers materialized from the shadows like wolves sensing prey, cameras clicking in rapid succession, voices shouting over each other. "Ethan, who's the girl? Ethan, is this your new girlfriend? Miss, what's your name?" Maya froze, her heart slamming against her ribcage. The flashes were blinding, the voices deafening. Ethan's hand found hers, gripping tight. "Stay close to me," he murmured, his voice calm despite the chaos. His security team appeared from nowhere, forming a barrier between them and the press. They moved quickly toward a black SUV waiting at the curb, but as Maya climbed into the vehicle, her face surely captured in 100 photographs, one thought echoed through her mind: what the hell have I just gotten myself into? And she had no idea that this single dinner, this one desperate decision, would change absolutely everything, but not in any way she could have possibly imagined. Maya woke up to 347 missed calls. Her phone vibrated so violently on the nightstand that it fell onto the floor with a clatter that made Lily groan from the other side of their shared room. The screen was a blur of notifications, texts, voicemails, social media alerts, numbers she didn't recognize and a few she did. It was 6:23 a.m. She'd gotten home at midnight. Less than 7 hours had passed since she'd stepped out of that restaurant with Ethan Cole's hand wrapped around hers. 7 hours. That's all it took for her life to detonate. She picked up the phone with shaking hands and opened Instagram. Her account, which yesterday had 214 followers, mostly people from high school and a few co-workers, now had 31,000. 31,000. Her direct messages were flooded, hundreds of them, thousands maybe. "Who are you? Gold digger alert. OMG, you're so lucky. Stay away from Ethan, he's mine. You don't deserve him. How much is he paying you?" The last one made her stomach drop like an elevator with cut cables. She opened Twitter, or X or whatever it was called now, and typed her own name into the search bar. Her hands were trembling so badly she almost dropped the phone again. The first result was a gossip site headline, posted 2 hours ago. "Ethan Cole spotted with mystery woman. Who is she and why have we never seen her before?" Below it was a photo, crystal clear, professionally shot. Her and Ethan walking out of the Rosewood Hotel, his hand holding hers, her face turned slightly toward him. She looked elegant in that borrowed dress. She looked like she belonged there. She looked like someone she absolutely was not. Maya scrolled further. Another headline: "Ethan Cole's secret romance. Actor seen getting cozy with unknown brunette." And another: "Breaking Ethan Cole off the market. Sources say new girlfriend is not from Hollywood." Her chest tightened. Her breathing went shallow. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. "Maya?" Lily's sleepy voice came from across the room. "Why is your phone going crazy?" Maya looked at her little sister, 14 years old, hair sticking up in every direction, wearing an oversized t-shirt with a faded unicorn on it. Innocent, safe, unaware that their lives had just been thrown into a blender set to maximum chaos. "It's nothing," Maya lied. "Go back to sleep." But her phone rang again. An unknown number. She declined it. It rang again immediately. Different number. She turned it off completely and sat there in the gray morning light, her heart hammering, her mind racing through every possible consequence of what she'd done. They know my face. They'll find out who I am. They'll find out about Lily, about Mom, about the diner. They'll discover everything, and then what? Maya called in sick to the diner, the first time she'd done that in 2 years. Margaret, her manager, sounded concerned but didn't push. Take care of yourself, honey. Feel better. If only it were that simple. She made Lily breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, the same thing they ate every morning because it was cheap and filling, and watched her sister scroll through her own phone, blissfully unaware of the storm gathering around them. At 9:47 a.m., Maya's phone powered back on. It immediately exploded with notifications again, but one message stood out, marked urgent. We need to talk. Now. Ethan. Her finger hovered over the message. Part of her wanted to block him, delete the app, pretend last night never happened, take the money and disappear. But another part of her, the part that remembered the loneliness in his eyes, the genuine conversation they'd had, that part made her respond. Where? The reply came in seconds. I'll send a car. 20 minutes. Pack a bag. You're going to need to disappear for a few days. Disappear? Maya's blood ran cold. What do you mean, disappear? What's happening? Maya, you're trending on Twitter. 4th worldwide. My publicist is losing her mind. We need to get you somewhere safe before the press finds out where you live. They will find out. Trust me. She looked around their tiny apartment. The water-stained ceiling, the peeling linoleum, the second-hand furniture, the stack of bills on the counter. If reporters showed up here, if they saw how she actually lived, if they broadcasted her poverty across the internet like some kind of circus attraction, I can't just leave. I have my sister. I have work. I'll take care of everything, please. I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. I didn't think they'd be there. I thought we'd have more time. Just trust me for 48 hours. Maya closed her eyes, breathed, counted to 10. She didn't trust him. She barely knew him, but she trusted the cruelty of the internet even less. Okay, but my sister comes with me. Done. The car that arrived wasn't the black SUV from last night. It was a regular gray sedan, unremarkable, the kind that wouldn't attract attention. The driver was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, who introduced herself simply as Ruth. Mr. Cole sent me, she said, loading their hastily packed bags into the trunk. We're going to take a few turns, make sure we're not followed. Sit tight. Lily, thrilled by what she thought was an adventure, chattered excitedly in the back seat. Are we going on vacation? Did you win something? Is this because of that fancy dinner you went to? Maya forced a smile. Something like that, sweetie. They drove for 40 minutes, weaving through city traffic, doubling back twice until they finally pulled up to a building in Chelsea that looked expensive but not ostentatious. A doorman opened the car door. Ruth handed Maya a key card. 15th floor, Unit 15C. Everything you need is inside. Mr. Cole will be by this evening. And then she was gone. The apartment was massive. Not Rosewood Hotel massive, but compared to their cramped studio, it felt like a palace. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a kitchen with appliances that looked like they'd never been used, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Lily ran through it like a puppy let off a leash, marveling at everything. Maya, there's a bathtub, a real one. Can I take a bath, please? Go ahead, Lil. While her sister splashed around in the bathroom, Maya stood at the window and watched the city move below her. From up here, everything looked small, manageable, like the chaos couldn't touch her, but she knew better. Her phone buzzed. Another message from Ethan. I'm sorry. I mean it. We'll figure this out. She didn't respond. Ethan arrived at 7 p.m., exactly as promised. He looked exhausted, hair disheveled, circles under his eyes, still wearing the same clothes from last night but rumpled now, like he hadn't slept. He probably hadn't. Maya opened the door, and for a moment they just stared at each other. I'm sorry, he said again. I didn't think. You didn't think at all. Maya cut him off, her voice sharper than she intended. You hired me for a quiet dinner. You said it would be simple. You didn't mention the part where I'd become internet famous overnight and have strangers sending me death threats. Ethan flinched. Death threats? 3 so far, all from people who think I'm stealing their imaginary boyfriend. He ran a hand through his hair, looking genuinely stricken. Jesus, Maya, Is my sister here? Lily's voice called from the hallway. She appeared a moment later, wrapped in a fluffy white bathrobe that was 3 sizes too big for her wet hair dripping onto the floor. She stopped when she saw Ethan. Her eyes went wide. Holy crap, you're Ethan Cole. Lily, Maya hissed. Language. Sorry, but Lily pointed at him like he was an alien. You're actually Ethan Cole. The guy from Infinite Horizon? The one who, oh my God, Maya, you had dinner with him? Ethan smiled despite everything, and Maya saw the practiced charm click into place. Guilty. You must be Lily. You know my name? Your sister talks about you a lot. That wasn't true. They'd only talked for 2 hours. But Lily's face lit up anyway, and Maya felt something twist in her chest. Don't you dare charm my sister. Don't you dare make her think this is anything other than a business transaction gone horribly wrong. If you're still with me, tell me which corner of the world you're watching from. Ethan turned back to Maya. Can we talk? Privately? She glanced at Lily. Sweetie, go watch TV or something. But now. Lily retreated, but not without throwing several glances back at Ethan, starstruck and grinning. They sat in the kitchen, a marble island between them like a border between 2 countries. Ethan pulled out his phone and slid it across to her. My publicist, Andrea, has been working on damage control all day. Here's what we're dealing with. Amaya looked at the screen. Article after article. Gossip sites, entertainment news, legitimate news outlets picking up the story. Photos of them from every angle. Speculation about who she was, where she came from, how they met. Some articles were harmless. Others were brutal. Mystery woman looks like a waitress. Is Ethan Cole slumming it? Sources say she's a nobody. Why would Ethan date down? Her throat tightened. She pushed the phone back to him. I've seen enough. Andrea thinks we have 2 options, Ethan said carefully. Option 1, you disappear completely. Delete your social media, change your number, move if necessary. I'll release a statement saying it was a misunderstanding, that you're just a friend, and the press will move on in a week or 2. Or, option 2, he took a breath. We lean into it. We let them think we're dating. You come to a few events with me. We're seen together a few more times, and in a month we stage a quiet breakup. You walk away with enough money to cover your mom's care for a year, Lily's education, whatever you need, and the press gets their story without digging into your actual life. Maya stared at him. You want me to pretend to be your girlfriend? I want to protect you from what's coming. If we don't control the narrative, they'll create their own. And trust me, Maya, their version will destroy you. Why would you do this? You don't even know me. Ethan's jaw tightened. Because this is my fault. Because you were honest with me, and I dragged you into my mess. And because, he paused, because I actually enjoyed talking to you. And that's rare. So yeah, maybe I'm being selfish, but I think this helps both of us. Maya's mind spun. Option 1 meant running, hiding, going back to her life but always looking over her shoulder. Option 2 meant stepping further into the lie, but it also meant money, real money, enough to change everything. How much? She asked quietly. $10,000 a week for 4 weeks plus expenses. $40,000. Her mother's nursing home for 6 months. Lily's new school clothes. The overdue bills. A cushion, finally, against the constant terror of not having enough. And after, when we break up, you disappear. I release a statement saying it was mutual. We remain friends and you go back to your life. With an NDA, obviously. You can't talk to the press about me, about us, about any of it. It was insane. It was reckless. It was a con job dressed up as charity. But Maya thought about the water-stained ceiling, the glued-together shoes, the nights she'd stayed awake calculating if she could skip a meal to make the budget work. She thought about Lily's face when she'd seen Ethan, the wonder, the joy, and she thought about what her mother would say if she were still lucid enough to offer advice. Baby, sometimes survival means doing things you never thought you'd do. Okay, Maya said. 4 weeks, but we do this my way too. I'm not some accessory you parade around. If I'm doing this, I want respect, I want honesty, and I want to know exactly what I'm getting into every step of the way. Ethan extended his hand across the marble island. Deal. Maya shook it, his palm warm and steady against hers. And somewhere in the back of her mind, a small voice whispered a warning she couldn't quite hear yet. This isn't going to stay fake. But she pushed it down, locked it away, and focused on the only thing that mattered. $40,000, 4 weeks, and then freedom. Or so she thought. Prussosier. The stylist's name was Gabrielle, and she looked at Maya the way a sculptor might look at a block of unfinished marble, with equal parts possibility and judgment. Okay, Gabrielle said, circling Maya slowly in the private suite Andrea had booked at some exclusive salon in Tribeca. We can work with this. Good bone structure, nice skin, hair needs professional treatment obviously, and we'll need to do something about, she gestured vaguely at Maya's entire body, everything else. Maya stood there in her bargain store jeans and faded t-shirt, feeling like a specimen under a microscope. Lily sat on a velvet chair in the corner, eyes wide, taking in the racks of designer clothes, the makeup cases that looked like they cost more than their monthly rent, the sheer absurdity of this entire situation. Andrea, Ethan's publicist, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and sharper suits, stood by the window typing furiously on her phone. She hadn't stopped moving since they'd arrived an hour ago. "The event is tomorrow night," Andrea said without looking up. "The premiere of Sideways Through Time. Red carpet, press, photographers, the works. You'll be Ethan's +1. And the story is simple. You met at a charity event 3 months ago, hit it off, kept it quiet until now. Low-key, genuine, real. No excessive PDA, but enough chemistry that it's believable. 3 months ago I was serving coffee at a diner," Maya said. "What charity event?" Andrea finally looked up. "The Children's Hospital Gala in June. Ethan was there. Plenty of regular people attend those events, it's plausible. Memorize the story, stick to it, don't elaborate. If anyone asks specific questions, smile and say you prefer to keep your private life private. And if they ask about my job, my family, where I live, you're a student," Andrea said smoothly. "NYU, studying literature. You work part-time at a bookstore. Your family is from upstate Rochester. You keep them out of the spotlight for their privacy. Simple, clean, hard to verify quickly." Maya's head spun. "You want me to lie about everything?" "I want you to protect yourself," Andrea corrected. "The truth is complicated and messy. This version is clean, believable, safe. Trust me, Maya. I've been doing this for 15 years. The less real information is out there, the better." Gabrielle clapped her hands. "Okay, enough talking. We have 24 hours to transform small-town girl into Manhattan girlfriend. Let's move." The next 6 hours were a blur of activity that left Maya feeling like she'd been processed through some kind of glamour factory. Hair, trimmed, conditioned, styled into soft waves that somehow looked effortless, but had taken 2 people 90 minutes to achieve. Nails, manicured, polished in a subtle nude shade that Gabrielle insisted said, "Classy, not trying too hard." Makeup, a full lesson in contouring, highlighting, and making it look like she wasn't wearing makeup while definitely wearing makeup. Wardrobe, 3 racks of designer dresses wheeled in, each one more expensive than her entire year's salary. Gabrielle selected a deep emerald gown that hugged Maya's curves without being revealing, elegant and sophisticated. Shoes, 4-inch heels that Maya practiced walking in for 30 minutes until she could move without looking like a baby deer on ice. Jewelry, borrowed pieces from some designer whose name she couldn't pronounce, each one insured for more than her life was probably worth. By the time Gabrielle stepped back satisfied, Maya barely recognized her own reflection. The woman in the mirror looked expensive, polished, like she belonged in Ethan's world. But her eyes still held the exhaustion of someone who'd worked 14-hour shifts, the wariness of someone who knew how quickly everything could fall apart. "Perfect," Gabrielle declared. "Now you look like someone Ethan Cole would date." Maya wanted to argue, wanted to say that looking the part didn't make it real, but Lily's gasp from across the room stopped her. "Maya," her sister breathed, "you look like a princess." And despite everything, the lies, the performance, the sheer absurdity of this entire situation, Maya smiled. That evening, back at the Chelsea apartment, Maya sat on the couch reviewing the relationship backstory Andrea had emailed her. A detailed timeline of fictional moments, their first meeting, their first date, little anecdotes about inside jokes and shared interests that never actually happened. She was supposed to memorize all of it by tomorrow. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "How was today?" She stared at the message for a moment before responding. "Weird, invasive, expensive." "Yeah, that sounds about right. You okay?" "Define okay." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, "Can I call you?" Maya hesitated, then typed, "Sure." The phone rang immediately. She answered. "Hey." Ethan's voice came through, softer than she'd heard it before. Not the practiced movie star tone, but something more genuine. "I know today was a lot. That's an understatement. I'm sorry. I know this whole thing is insane, but you did great." Andrea said Gabrielle was impressed, and Gabrielle is never impressed. Maya glanced toward the bedroom where Lily was supposedly doing homework but was probably on her phone. "Ethan, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Why me?" "Really? There are probably 1,000 women who'd jump at the chance to fake date you. Women who already know how to navigate your world. Why hire someone who had to be taught how to walk in heels today?" The line went quiet for a moment. Then Ethan sighed. "You remember what I said at dinner? About being tired of fake conversations? Yeah. Everyone in my life wants something from me. My agent wants me to take specific roles. My publicist wants me to maintain a certain image. My friends, the few real ones I have left, they're careful around me now because I have money and influence. Even my family." He trailed off. "Everyone performs for me, everyone has an angle. And I don't? You were honest, brutally honest. You told me you were there for the money and you didn't apologize for it. You didn't pretend. And when we talked, really talked, you weren't trying to impress me or get something from me. You were just real." Maya pulled her knees up to her chest. "I'm still here for the money, Ethan. Let's not romanticize this. I know, and I appreciate that you keep saying it. It means I can trust you." Something about that hit differently than she'd expected. Trust. The idea that her honesty about using him was somehow more trustworthy than someone's false affection. "Tomorrow's going to be intense," Ethan continued. "The premiere, the red carpet, it's a machine designed to overwhelm you. Stay close to me. If you get uncomfortable, squeeze my hand twice and I'll get us out of there, okay?" "Okay. And Maya, you're going to be amazing. I know you don't believe that yet, but you will be." After they hung up, Maya sat in the quiet apartment, the city lights twinkling through the windows, and wondered how something that started as a simple transaction had already become so complicated. The next evening arrived too quickly. Ruth picked them up at 5 p.m. Lily was staying at the apartment with a babysitter Andrea had hired, much to her sister's disappointment. The car ride to the theater felt like being driven toward an execution. Maya's hands shook despite the fresh manicure. The emerald dress suddenly felt too tight, too revealing, too everything. The heels pinched her toes. The borrowed jewelry felt like it might strangle her. "Breathe," Ruth said from the driver's seat, catching Maya's eye in the rearview mirror. "I've driven Mr. Cole to 100 of these things. The first one is always the hardest, but you'll survive. They all do. That's not as reassuring as you think it is," Maya muttered. They pulled up to a side entrance of the theater. Ethan was waiting there, and when Maya stepped out of the car, his expression shifted. Surprise, then something else she couldn't quite read. "Wow," he said quietly. "You look incredible. Gabrielle's work, not mine." "I disagree." He offered his arm. "Ready?" "Absolutely not." He smiled. "Perfect. That makes two of us." The red carpet was everything she'd imagined and worse. The noise hit her first. A wall of sound, cameras clicking like mechanical insects, voices shouting over each other, music blaring from speakers. Lights flashed so bright and so frequently that Maya felt like she was having a seizure. Ethan's hand tightened around hers. "Stay with me," he murmured, his smile fixed in place for the cameras. They moved slowly down the carpet, stopping at designated spots where photographers clustered like sharks. Ethan posed automatically, his body angled just right, his smile perfect. Maya tried to copy him, her own smile feeling plastic and fake. "Ethan, over here." "Ethan, who's the lucky lady?" "Miss, look this way." "Ethan, tell us about your girlfriend." The questions came rapid fire. Ethan handled them with practiced ease, giving vague but charming answers, deflecting personal questions, keeping Maya slightly behind him, protected. They were halfway down the carpet when Maya heard a voice that cut through the chaos like a knife. Well, Ethan Cole with a new toy. How predictable. What comes next is even stronger. And to not miss what happens, tap the subscribe button now. It's free and you'll be with me in every new story." Maya turned. A woman stood 3 feet away, stunning in a black dress that looked painted on, platinum blonde hair cascading over her shoulders, eyes like blue ice locked on Ethan with laser focus. She was beautiful, terrifyingly beautiful, the kind of beautiful that belonged on magazine covers and movie screens. Ethan's entire body went rigid. "Vanessa, surprised to see me?" The woman, Vanessa, smiled, but there was nothing warm in it. "I heard you'd moved on. I had to see for myself." Her gaze slid to Maya, assessing, dismissive. "So this is the downgrade everyone's talking about." Maya's face burned. Every instinct screamed at her to respond, to defend herself, but her throat had closed up. Ethan stepped forward, putting himself partially between them. "Walk away, Vanessa. Or what? You'll have security throw me out? In front of all these cameras?" Vanessa laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "I don't think so. You're too concerned with your image for that." A photographer nearby noticed the confrontation and started snapping pictures. Others followed. Suddenly, they were the center of attention, and Maya realized with creeping horror that this was going to be the story. Not the premiere, not Ethan's movie, but this moment. Vanessa leaned closer to Maya, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "Enjoy it while it lasts, sweetheart. Ethan gets bored easily. Trust me, I would know." and then she swept away, leaving a trail of perfume and poison in her wake. Ethan turned to Maya immediately. "Are you okay?" She wasn't. Her hands were shaking again. Her chest felt tight. The cameras were still flashing, capturing every moment of her humiliation, but she forced herself to nod. "Who was that?" "My ex. I'll explain later. Come on, let's get inside." They finished the red carpet in a blur. The premiere itself was a haze, a movie Maya couldn't focus on. People congratulating Ethan, curious glances thrown her way. She smiled when expected, laughed when appropriate, played the part Andrea had coached her to play, but her mind was stuck on Vanessa's words. Ethan gets bored easily. And on the way, Ethan's entire demeanor had changed when he'd seen her. Not just surprise or annoyance, but something deeper. Something that looked almost like fear. Later that night, back at the apartment after Ethan had dropped her off with barely more than a strained goodnight, Maya finally let herself collapse on the couch. Lily emerged from her room, still awake despite the late hour. How was it? Maya didn't know how to answer. How did she explain that she'd just been publicly humiliated by a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine? That she'd spent 3 hours pretending to be someone she wasn't while cameras documented her every move? That she was being paid to live a lie and it was already eating her alive? "It was fine," she said instead. "Go to bed, Lil." After her sister retreated, Maya pulled out her phone. Against her better judgment, she opened Twitter. The premiere was trending, and so was she, but not for the reasons she'd hoped. The top post was a side-by-side photo, Maya and Vanessa. The caption read, "Guess we know who won this round. Ethan Cole, just downgrade." It had 40,000 likes. Maya closed the app, turned off her phone, and sat in the dark apartment, wondering how she was supposed to survive 3 more weeks of this, and trying to ignore the voice in her head that whispered, "You're in way over your head. And the worst part? You're starting to care." The article dropped at 6:47 a.m., 3 days after the premiere. Maya was making coffee, real coffee, not the instant stuff they survived on at home, because this apartment came stocked with everything. When her phone started its now familiar explosion of notifications, but this felt different, more urgent, more vicious. She opened her phone with a sense of dread that proved immediately justified. The headline was from Celebrity Insider, one of the biggest gossip sites online. Ethan Cole's new girlfriend broke waitress with a dark family secret. Maya's blood turned to ice. Below the headline was a photo of her, not from the premiere but from the diner. Someone had found her. Someone had tracked her down, walked into Giuseppe's on 5th Avenue and photographed her in her grease-stained uniform, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, exhaustion written across her face. But it was the article itself that made her knees buckle. While Ethan Cole, 32, has been parading his new girlfriend Maya Torres, 26, around Manhattan's elite social scene, sources close to the situation reveal a troubling picture of the mystery woman who's captured Hollywood's most eligible bachelor's attention. Torres, far from the NYU literature student Cole's team has been claiming, is actually a waitress at a budget diner in Midtown. But that's not the most shocking part. According to records obtained by Celebrity Insider, Torres's mother, Linda Torres, 54, is currently a patient at Riverside Memory Care Facility, a nursing home specializing in advanced Alzheimer's and dementia cases. Sources familiar with the family's situation report that Torres has been struggling to pay the monthly $8,000 care fees, raising questions about how exactly she can afford to date one of Hollywood's wealthiest actors. Even more concerning, Torres' father, Miguel Torres, died in 2019 while serving time in Rikers Island for armed robbery and assault. He was 46 years old. The article continued, but Maya couldn't read anymore. Her hands were shaking so violently she dropped the phone. It clattered on the kitchen floor, the screen cracking in the corner. They'd found everything. Everything. Her mother, her father, her real job, the nursing home bills, the poverty, the desperation, and they'd weaponized it all. Lily appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Maya, what's wrong?" Maya couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The walls of the beautiful apartment were closing in, suffocating her. Her phone rang, the sound muffled against the floor. She picked it up with trembling fingers. "Ethan, don't read it," were his first words. "Maya, whatever you do, don't." Too late. Her voice came out hollow. "They know everything. My mom, my dad, the diner. How did they—" "Vanessa." Ethan's voice was tight with barely controlled fury. "It has to be her. She has investigators she uses, people who dig up dirt on anyone who gets close to me. She's done this before." "Before?" Maya's voice cracked. How many other women has she destroyed, Ethan? The silence on the other end was answer enough. I'm coming over, Ethan said finally. Don't leave the apartment, don't talk to anyone, I'll be there in 20 minutes. He hung up before she could argue. Ethan arrived in 15 minutes looking like he'd barely slept. His hair was uncombed, he wore yesterday's clothes, and his eyes had a desperate edge Maya hadn't seen before. He also wasn't alone. Andrea swept in behind him, already on her phone, her expression grimmer than Maya had ever seen it. Behind her came a man in an expensive suit, late 40s, silver hair, carrying a leather briefcase that screamed, "Lawyer." "This is Marcus Chen," Andrea said without preamble. "Our attorney. We're exploring legal options against Celebrity Insider for invasion of privacy and defamation." Maya stood in the middle of the living room, still wearing her pajamas, feeling like a stranger in her own crisis. Legal options? They published the truth. How is that defamation? "The implication," Marcus said, his voice calm and measured, "is that you're using Mr. Cole for financial gain, potentially in a transactional or exploitative manner. That implication is false and damaging to both your reputations." The irony wasn't lost on Maya. They were literally paying her to pretend to date him. The article wasn't wrong. They'd just guessed a transaction that happened to be true. Ethan moved closer to her, his voice low. "Are you okay?" "No." The word came out sharper than she intended. "No, I'm not okay. They dragged my mother into this. My father, Ethan. Do you know what it's like to have your dead parents' criminal record broadcasted across the internet as proof that you're not good enough? I know this is—" "You don't know." Maya's voice rose, all the fear and anger and humiliation of the past week erupting. "You don't know what it's like to be picked apart by millions of strangers who've decided you're trash because you weren't born into money. You don't know what it's like to have your whole life weaponized against you." Lily stood in the hallway, eyes wide, scared. Maya forced herself to breathe, to lower her voice. "I think I need to quit," she said quietly. "This was a mistake. I should never have—" "No." Ethan's response was immediate, almost desperate. "Maya, please, don't let Vanessa win. This isn't about winning." Maya's voice cracked. "This is about my life, my family, my dignity. I can't do this." Andrea stepped forward. "If you quit now, the narrative becomes gold digger exposed and runs away. They'll tear you apart even more. But if you stay, if we fight back, we control the story." "How?" Maya demanded. "How do we control this?" Andrea and Marcus exchanged a glance. Then Andrea said, "We tell the truth, selectively." An hour later, they sat around the dining table, Maya, Ethan, Andrea, and Marcus, strategizing like generals planning a war. "Here's what we do," Andrea said, pulling up a document on her tablet. "We release a statement. Not defensive, not apologetic, honest and humanizing. We confirm that yes, Maya works at a diner. She's putting herself through school, supporting her family, demonstrating work ethic and responsibility. We confirm her mother's situation. It's not shameful to have a parent with Alzheimer's. It's compassionate to care for them. We don't mention her father unless directly asked, and if asked, we say it's a painful family tragedy she doesn't discuss publicly." "And the money thing?" Maya asked. "The implication that I'm with him for financial reasons?" "We lean into the Cinderella angle," Andrea said. "Classic love story. Wealthy actor meets hard-working girl from humble beginnings, sees beyond surface wealth to genuine connection. It's not original, but it works because people want to believe in it." Maya looked at Ethan. "Is that what you want? To make this into some fairy tale?" Ethan met her gaze and something passed between them. An understanding maybe, or a shared acknowledgement of how absurd this all was. "I want to protect you," he said simply. "Whatever that takes." Marcus cleared his throat. "There's one more thing. We need to address Vanessa directly. She's been posting cryptic messages on social media, engaging with articles about you, fueling the narrative. We need to shut that down." "How?" Maya asked. Ethan's jaw tightened. "I'll handle Vanessa." "No." Andrea's voice was sharp. "Any direct contact between you two will be spun as proof of lingering feelings. We need to—" "I said I'll handle it." Ethan's tone left no room for argument. "I can do the key." The statement went live 2 hours later on Ethan's official social media accounts. "I don't usually address my personal life publicly, but recent articles have crossed a line from gossip into cruelty. Maya Torres is one of the most genuine, hardworking, compassionate people I've ever met. She works full-time while supporting her family, including caring for her mother who has Alzheimer's. She didn't ask for this attention. She didn't ask to have her privacy violated or her family's struggles weaponized against her. The people writing these articles don't know her. They don't know her strength, her character, or the sacrifices she makes every single day. But I do. And I'm asking, not as a celebrity but as a human being, please leave her alone. If you want to criticize someone, criticize me. But leave Maya and her family out of this. To Maya, I'm sorry. You deserved better than this. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within an hour, the post had 1 million likes. The comments flooded in, some supportive, some still cruel, but the tide was shifting. People loved the protective boyfriend angle. They loved the David and Goliath story. They loved the idea of the rich actor defending the poor girl. Maya read the comments until she felt numb. If he's fighting for her like this, it must be real. This is so romantic, OMG. She doesn't deserve him. Actually, this makes me like them together. Vanessa is shaking. That last comment proved prophetic. At 3 p.m., Vanessa posted a photo on Instagram, a throwback picture of her and Ethan from 2 years ago, both of them laughing, his arm around her waist. The caption was simple: "Some people are irreplaceable." It was viewed 8 million times in the first hour. Ethan showed up at the apartment again that evening, looking wrecked. He'd been dealing with fallout all day, calls from his agent, his manager, old friends picking sides, the relentless media cycle. Maya was sitting on the balcony, wrapped in a blanket despite the warm evening, staring out at the city that had chewed her up and spit her out in less than a week. Ethan joined her, sitting down without asking permission. "I need to tell you about Vanessa," he said quietly. Maya didn't respond. "We dated for 2 years. Met on a movie set. She was the lead actress. I was the newcomer trying to prove myself. She was intense, passionate, but also controlling, jealous. She wanted to be seen everywhere together, wanted to be the it couple. When I started booking bigger roles, started getting more attention than her, it got worse. Why didn't you just leave?" I tried, 3 times. Each time she'd threatened to go to the press with lies, to destroy my career, to make sure I'd never work again. She had dirt on me, stuff from my past, mistakes I'd made, things I wasn't proud of. So I stayed. For 6 more months, I stayed in a relationship that was killing me because I was afraid of what she'd do if I left. Maya finally looked at him. What changed? Ethan's voice dropped. She got pregnant. The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to detonate. Or at least she said she was. Told me she was keeping the baby, that we'd get married, that this was fate. I was terrified, but I was also, I don't know, maybe part of me thought it would fix things, that having a child would make her less cruel. What happened? 2 weeks later, I found out she'd lied. There was no pregnancy. She'd faked the test, the doctor's notes, everything. She just wanted to trap me, to make sure I couldn't leave. When I confronted her, when I finally ended it, she tried to destroy me anyway. Told the press I'd cheated on her, that I'd pressured her to get an abortion she never had. It took my team months to contain the damage. Maya's chest tightened. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you need to understand who you're dealing with. Vanessa doesn't just want me back, she wants to destroy anyone who threatens her narrative. She's already started with you, and it's going to get worse before it gets better." "Then let me go," Maya said softly. "End this arrangement. I'll disappear, and she'll have nothing left to attack." Ethan turned to face her fully, and there was something raw in his eyes. "What if I don't want you to go?" The question landed between them like a grenade. "Ethan, I know this started as a transaction. I know you're here for the money, and I respect that. But somewhere between the premiere and right now, this stopped feeling fake to me." Maya's heart hammered. Don't what? Don't make this complicated. Don't pretend this is something it's not. You're paying me, Ethan. That's what this is. Then why are you still here?" His voice was gentle but insistent. "The money hit your account 3 days ago. You could have walked away, but you didn't." Because he was right. The first payment had cleared. $10,000. More money than she'd ever seen in her account at once. She could have disappeared, but she hadn't. "I don't know," Maya admitted, her voice barely a whisper. Ethan reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and took her hand. "I think you do." And for the first time since this entire insane arrangement began, Maya allowed herself to consider the possibility that scared her more than anything else, that maybe this wasn't entirely fake anymore, that maybe she was falling for the man behind the movie star, and that maybe that was the most dangerous thing of all. And the charity gala was supposed to be their redemption. After the article, after Vanessa's cryptic social media posts, after the relentless scrutiny that had turned Maya's life into a public spectacle, Andrea had insisted they needed a soft re-entry into the public eye, something elegant, philanthropic, and controlled. The children's hospital benefit at the plaza, Black tie, A-list guests, and ironically, the very charity event where their fabricated meeting was supposed to have taken place 3 months ago. "This is perfect," Andrea had said during the strategy session 2 days prior. "Low-key, good cause, excellent optics. You show up together, you look happy and united, and you remind everyone why they fell in love with this story in the first place." But as Maya stood in front of the mirror in yet another borrowed gown, this one a soft champagne color that made her look like she'd been dipped in liquid gold, she felt nothing but dread. The conversation with Ethan on the balcony 3 nights ago had changed something between them. An invisible line had been crossed, and now every interaction felt weighted with meaning she wasn't ready to examine. "What if I don't want you to go?" His words played on repeat in her mind, a dangerous loop she couldn't shut off. Lily appeared behind her in the mirror's reflection wearing pajamas and holding a bowl of cereal. "You look like a princess again." "I feel like a fraud," Maya muttered, adjusting the neckline for the 5th time. "Why? You're literally going to a ball with a prince. That's princess behavior." "He's not a prince, Lil. He's just a guy. A guy who looks at you like you hung the moon." Lily grinned, milk dribbling down her chin. "I've seen the way he watches you when you're not looking. It's actually gross how romantic it is." Maya turned to face her sister. "It's not real. You know that, right? This whole thing is just what? Pretend?" Lily's expression turned serious, more mature than her 14 years should allow. "Maya, I'm not stupid. I know this started weird. But I also know that nobody looks at someone the way he looks at you unless it means something." Before Maya could respond, her phone buzzed. Ruth was downstairs. The Plaza Hotel looked like something out of a fairy tale, or a nightmare depending on Maya's mood at any given moment. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across marble floors. Women in gowns that cost more than cars glided past. Men in tuxedos that were probably custom-made discussed deals worth millions as casually as Maya discussed the lunch specials at the diner. Ethan was waiting in the lobby, and when he saw her, his expression did something that made Lily's words echo uncomfortably in Maya's mind. He looked at her like she mattered. "You're stunning," he said quietly, offering his arm. "Gabrielle's work," Maya replied automatically, the same deflection she'd used before. "No." Ethan's voice was firm. "You. Just you." The ballroom was already packed when they arrived. A string quartet played in the corner. Waiters circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres that were more art than food. Maya recognized faces from movies, from television, from magazine covers, and they were all looking at her. "Remember," Ethan murmured as they moved into the crowd, "you belong here just as much as anyone else." "I really don't," Maya whispered back. "Then fake it. You're good at that by now." The comment stung, even though she knew he hadn't meant it cruelly, because he was right. She'd become excellent at pretending, at playing the role of Ethan Cole's girlfriend, at smiling for cameras and deflecting personal questions and moving through this world like she wasn't constantly terrified of being exposed. But the lines were blurring, and that terrified her most of all. Guyana Regan, the first hour passed in a blur of introductions and small talk. Ethan navigated it effortlessly, his hand a constant presence on the small of Maya's back, guiding her, protecting her. He introduced her to directors, producers, other actors, people whose names she recognized but whose faces felt surreal up close. Most were polite. Some were genuinely warm. A few looked at her with barely concealed judgment, their eyes taking in her dress, her posture, her background that had been so thoroughly dissected online. Maya was talking to a kind older woman, some Broadway producer who'd worked with Ethan years ago, when she felt him tense beside her. She followed his gaze across the room and felt her stomach drop. Vanessa had just walked in. She wore red, blood red, a dress that looked like it had been poured onto her body. Her platinum hair was swept up, exposing a swan-like neck adorned with diamonds that caught the light with every movement. She looked like vengeance dressed in couture, and she was walking directly toward them. "Ethan," the Broadway producer said warmly, oblivious to the tension. "I should go mingle." "Lovely meeting you, Maya dear." She disappeared into the crowd, leaving them exposed. Vanessa stopped 3 feet away, her smile sharp enough to draw blood. "Ethan, Maya, how lovely to see you both together. So cozy." "Vanessa," Ethan's voice was ice. "What are you doing here?" "It's a charity event, darling. I'm being charitable." Her eyes slid to Maya, assessing. "That's a beautiful dress. Borrowed, I assume." Maya's face burned, but before she could respond, Ethan stepped forward. "Walk away. Now. Or what? You'll make a scene?" Vanessa's laugh was like crystal shattering. "We both know you won't risk your precious image." A photographer nearby noticed the confrontation and started moving closer, camera raised. If you're still here with me, comment where in the world you're watching this unfold. Actually, a new voice interrupted. I think the lady asked you to leave. Maya turned. A man had stepped up beside Ethan. Mid-30s, dark skin, kind eyes, wearing a tuxedo with the ease of someone comfortable in his own skin. She recognized him vaguely from somewhere. Marcus? Ethan's surprise was evident. Hey man. The man, Marcus, smiled at Ethan, then turned a considerably colder expression toward Vanessa. Vanessa, always a pleasure, by which I mean never. Vanessa's mask slipped for just a second, revealing something ugly beneath. This doesn't concern you, Marcus. Actually, it does. Ethan's my friend, and I don't let people harass my friends. He turned to Maya, extending his hand. Marcus Reed, I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances. Maya shook his hand, confused but grateful. Maya Torres, I know. I've heard a lot about you. Marcus's smile was genuine. All good things, despite what the internet would have you believe. Vanessa's jaw tightened. How touching. The boys defending their new pet project. That's enough. Ethan's voice was deadly quiet. You want to come after me? Fine. But you leave her alone. If you don't, I will tell everyone exactly what you did. The fake pregnancy, the manipulation, the threats, all of it. The color drained from Vanessa's face. You wouldn't dare. Try me. For a long moment they stared at each other. Years of history and pain and toxicity compressed into a single look. Then Vanessa smiled, but it was wrong. All teeth and no warmth. Fine. Keep your little waitress, but remember, Ethan, everything ends eventually. And when this does, when she realizes who you really are beneath all the charm, she leaned closer, her voice dropping to a poisonous whisper. She'll run just like the others did. Then she turned and walked away, her red dress cutting through the crowd like a wound. Maya realized she'd been holding her breath. She exhaled shakily. Marcus touched Ethan's shoulder. You okay, brother? Ethan nodded stiffly. Yeah, thanks for the backup. Always. Marcus turned to Maya. For what it's worth, Vanessa's wrong. About everything. Don't let her poison get into your head. Who are you? Maya asked, the question coming out more blunt than she'd intended. Marcus laughed. Fair question. I'm Ethan's college roommate. Known this idiot for 12 years. Watched him navigate more Hollywood bullshit than anyone should have to deal with. His expression softened, and I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Marcus, Ethan's warning tone was clear. What? It's true. Marcus grinned. Anyway, I'll leave you two alone. Maya, truly, it was great to meet you. Don't let the sharks scare you off. You're good for him. He disappeared into the crowd, leaving Maya and Ethan standing in uncomfortable silence. They found a quiet corner near the windows overlooking Central Park. The party continued behind them. Music, laughter, the gentle clink of glasses, but it felt distant now, muffled. I'm sorry, Ethan said quietly. About Vanessa, about all of this. What did she mean? Maya turned to face him. When she realizes who you really are? What was she talking about? Ethan stared out at the city lights, his jaw working. I told you about the fake pregnancy, about how she manipulated me. Yes. What I didn't tell you was why I stayed as long as I did, why I put up with it. Maya waited. Because she was right about one thing. I'm good at pretending, at being whatever people need me to be. The charming actor, the professional, the good guy. I've been performing my whole life, Maya. Not just on camera, but everywhere, with everyone. That's not, let me finish. His voice was strained. When I met Vanessa, she saw through the performance. She saw the insecure kid from Montana who didn't think he deserved any of this, who still doesn't. And she used it. She made me believe that without her I'd fall apart, that the person I really was beneath all the success and the charm wasn't enough. Maya's chest tightened. Ethan, and maybe she was right, because look at what I've done. I hired you to play a part because I couldn't navigate my own life without creating another performance. I dragged you into this mess because I was too much of a coward to just be alone. Stop. Maya's voice was firm. She grabbed his arm, forcing him to look at her. You didn't drag me into anything. I chose this. For the money, yes, but I chose it. And whatever Vanessa told you, whatever lies she made you believe about yourself, they're not true. How do you know? Because I've seen you, the real you, not the movie star, not the performance, the guy who worries about his friend Marcus, who feels guilty about photographers invading my privacy, who stayed on the phone with me for an hour talking about nothing because I was scared and alone in a strange apartment. Her voice softened. That person, he's more than enough. Ethan's eyes searched hers, and Maya realized with a jolt how close they were standing. Close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. Close enough to count the faint freckles across his nose that makeup usually covered. Close enough that when he spoke, she felt his breath. Maya, A commotion erupted across the ballroom. Raised voices. The music stopped. People turned, whispers spreading like wildfire. Ethan and Maya moved back toward the crowd. What they saw made Maya's blood freeze. Vanessa stood at the center of the room, microphone in hand. She must have grabbed it from the stage during the brief moment of confusion. Her eyes were bright, manic, and locked directly on them. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she said, her voice amplified and sugary sweet. "But I just couldn't stay quiet any longer. Everyone's been wondering about Ethan's mysterious new girlfriend. Well, I have some information that might interest you all." "No," Ethan breathed. He started moving toward her, but security was already responding. People were recording on their phones, and it was too late. "Maya Torres isn't who she claims to be," Vanessa continued, her smile growing wider. "She's not some NYU student who met Ethan at a charity event. She's a paid escort. Ethan hired her through a companion app. Their entire relationship is a transaction. A fraud." The room erupted. Cameras flashed. People gasped. Voices rose in shock and speculation. Maya felt the walls closing in, felt hundreds of eyes turning toward her, felt the weight of judgment crushing down. Ethan reached Vanessa, grabbing the microphone from her hand, but the damage was done. The words were out there, recorded on dozens of phones, already being uploaded to social media, spreading across the internet like a virus. Maya couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what had just happened. Security was escorting Vanessa out. She went willingly, laughing, triumphant. Andrea appeared from nowhere, her face pale, already on her phone trying to contain the disaster. Marcus materialized beside Maya, his hand on her shoulder, saying something she couldn't hear over the roaring in her ears. And Ethan turned back to her, his face stricken, and mouthed two words across the chaos. "I'm sorry, but sorry couldn't fix this. Sorry couldn't undo the truth that was now public knowledge. Sorry couldn't protect her from what was about to happen." Maya didn't remember leaving the plaza, didn't remember the car ride back to the apartment, didn't remember walking through the door or Lily's concerned face or Ruth's gentle voice asking if she needed anything. She only remembered sitting on the bathroom floor, fully dressed in her champagne gown, while the internet exploded around her. The trending topics told the story. Paid girlfriend, each Ethan Cole fraud, each Maya Torres, escort gate article after article, tweet after tweet. Her face plastered everywhere, now with the label escort attached to it like a scarlet letter. Her phone rang. Ethan. She didn't answer. It rang again. Andrea. She turned it off. There was a knock on the bathroom door. "Maya?" Lily's voice was small, scared. "Are you okay?" No. She wasn't okay. She'd known this was temporary. She'd known it was transactional. She'd known the risks. But somewhere along the way, between the honest conversations and the protective touches and the way he looked at her like she mattered, she'd forgotten it was all pretend. She'd forgotten that you can't fake something without it starting to feel real. And now the world knew the truth. She was exactly what they'd accused her of being from the start, someone who'd been bought and paid for. Only she'd made the mistake of falling for the man writing the checks. 2 a.m., Maya finally emerged from the bathroom. Lily had fallen asleep on the couch, phone still clutched in her hand, clearly waiting up. Maya covered her with a blanket and stood at the window looking out at the city that had chewed her up and spit her out. Her phone, powered back on despite her better judgment, showed 84 missed calls from Ethan and one text sent 20 minutes ago. "I know you probably hate me right now. I know I've destroyed everything, but please just let me explain. Let me make this right. I'm outside. I'll wait all night if I have to. Just please, Maya, please." She looked down at the street below. There, leaning against a car, was Ethan, still in his tuxedo, alone, waiting. For her. Maya stood at that window for a long time, weighing her options. She could ignore him, pack up Lily in the morning, take the money she'd already earned, and disappear back into the anonymity she'd lost. Or she could go down there and face whatever came next. The smart choice was obvious, but when had she ever been smart about this? Maya grabbed her coat, slipped out of the apartment, and took the elevator down. When she stepped onto the street, Ethan straightened immediately, hope and fear warring on his face. "Maya, don't," she said quietly. "Don't apologize again. Don't make promises you can't keep. Just tell me the truth about everything. No more performances, no more pretending." Ethan nodded slowly. "Okay, the truth. And there, on a quiet Manhattan street at 2:30 in the morning, Ethan Cole finally stopped performing. Oh, they didn't talk on the street. Too exposed. Too public. Even at 2:30 a.m., Manhattan never truly slept, and the last thing either of them needed was another photo op for the tabloids. Instead, Ethan led her to his car. He was driving himself tonight. No Ruth, no handlers, just him. And they drove in silence through empty streets until they reached a small park overlooking the Hudson River. It was deserted, quiet, the kind of place that felt removed from the chaos that had become their lives. They sat on a bench facing the water, the city lights reflecting off the dark surface like scattered stars. Maya pulled her coat tighter around herself, not from cold, but from the vulnerability of this moment. "I didn't hire you because I needed a date to a premiere," Ethan said finally, his voice low. "That was part of it, sure, but that's not why I chose you." Maya waited, her heart hammering. 3 weeks before I found Companion Connect, I was in my therapist's office having what she gently called a breakdown. I told her I couldn't do it anymore. The performing, the pretending, the constant feeling that everyone wanted something from me and no one actually saw me. She asked when I'd last had a genuine conversation with someone, and I realized I couldn't remember. He turned to look at her, his eyes reflecting the river's lights. So I created a test. I signed up for that app not looking for arm candy or a publicity relationship. I was looking for someone real, someone who wouldn't know who I was or what I represented, someone who would talk to me like a person. "But I did know who you were," Maya said quietly. "Yeah, but you didn't care. When you sat down at that table and told me you were there because your sister needed shoes, because you were drowning in bills, you weren't trying to impress me. You weren't performing, you were just honest. Brutally, refreshingly honest." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. "I went home that night and I couldn't stop thinking about it, about you, about how good it felt to have a real conversation. So I asked you to come back, and then again, and somewhere in there, the lines started blurring. When did it stop being fake for you?" Maya's voice was barely a whisper. "The premiere. When Vanessa showed up and tried to humiliate you and you didn't fall apart, you were scared. I could feel you shaking. But you didn't run. And when we got in the car afterward, you asked me if I was okay. Not about the publicity, not about how it looked. You asked if I was okay." His voice cracked slightly. "No one asks me that, Maya. No one looks past the image to see if the person underneath is drowning. But you did." Maya felt tears building behind her eyes. "Why didn't you just tell me? Why keep up the arrangement?" "Because I was terrified." Ethan laughed, but it was hollow. "Terrified that if I told you the truth that I was falling for you, you'd think it was just another performance, another manipulation, that you'd leave, and I'd lose the one genuine thing in my life. So instead you let me think I was just a transaction. Yes, and that was wrong. I was a coward." He turned to face her fully. "But Maya, everything I said about you, about your strength, your character, your compassion, all of it was real. The feelings were real. I handled it in the worst possible way." Maya wiped at her eyes angrily. "Do you have any idea what tonight did to me? Having Vanessa announce to everyone that I'm essentially a prostitute? Having the entire internet confirm what they suspected all along? That I'm not good enough for your world? You're better than my world," Ethan said fiercely. "That's the whole point. My world is fake and toxic and performative. You're real. You're the realest thing that's happened to me in years." "But I'm not real," Maya's voice rose. "Everything about us is constructed. The story, the appearances, the relationship, it's all fiction, Ethan. How do you build something real on a foundation of lies? By telling the truth now." Ethan reached for her hand, and after a moment's hesitation, she let him take it. By admitting that yes, it started as an arrangement, yes, I paid you, but somewhere along the way it became real, at least for me. And I hope, maybe for you too. Maya wanted to deny it, wanted to protect herself from the vulnerability of admitting what she'd been fighting for weeks. But she was so tired of lying, to the world, to Ethan, to herself. "I didn't want it to be real," she said quietly. "I kept telling myself it was just the money, just survival, just 4 weeks, and then I'd go back to my life. But then you'd say something that made me laugh, or you'd text me goodnight even when you didn't have to, or you'd look at me like I was the only person in the room and She trailed off, the words catching in her throat. "And you what?" Ethan prompted gently. "And I started imagining what it would be like if it were real, if you actually wanted me, not the performance, if I could actually belong in your world, not just pretend to. You do belong." "No, I don't." Maya pulled her hand away. Tonight proved that. The second the truth came out, I was crucified, called an escort, a gold digger, a fraud. And they're not wrong, Ethan. I am all those things. I took your money to pretend to be your girlfriend. That's exactly what an escort does. Stop. Ethan's voice was sharp. Don't let Vanessa's poison define you. Don't let the internet's judgment make you believe their narrative. Then what's the truth? Maya demanded. Tell me, Ethan. What's the real story here? Ethan was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the water. Then he said, the truth is that I was lonely and desperate and made a stupid decision to hire a stranger instead of being honest about what I needed. The truth is that you were broke and scared and made a brave decision to take a risk that terrified you. The truth is that we both walked into this for the wrong reasons and somehow found something right anyway. He turned back to her. The truth is that I'm in love with you, Maya Torres. Not with the performance, not with the idea of you. With you, the woman who works 14-hour shifts and still makes time to help her sister with homework, who puts her mother's care before her own needs, who called me out when I was being an idiot and made me laugh when I'd forgotten how. That's who I'm in love with. The words hung in the air between them, raw and terrifying and real. Maya's breath caught. Ethan, you don't have to say it back. I know this is complicated and messy and maybe impossible, but you asked for the truth, so that's it. That's my truth. Maya looked at him, really looked at him. Not Ethan Cole, the movie star, but Ethan the man, the one who'd stayed on the phone with her when she was scared, who'd defended her against Vanessa, who'd waited outside her apartment for hours just for a chance to explain, the one who looked at her like she was worth fighting for. I need you to understand something, Maya said slowly. My whole life I've had to fight for scraps, for respect, for money, for basic dignity. I've been looked down on for being poor, for my father's mistakes, for not being educated enough or polished enough or enough. And when you offered me this arrangement, part of me knew it was wrong, but the bigger part of me was just so tired of fighting. So I took your money and I told myself it was just business. She wiped at her eyes again. But then you made me feel like I mattered, like I was worth something beyond a paycheck or a performance. And that scared me more than anything because I knew it couldn't last. People like me don't end up with people like you. That's not how the world works. Fuck how the world works, Ethan said intensely. The world tried to destroy you tonight. The world has been cruel to both of us in different ways. Why should we let the world dictate what we can be? Because the world won't stop, Ethan. Vanessa won't stop. The press won't stop. Every day will be a battle, and I'm already so tired of fighting. Then let me fight for you. Ethan moved closer. Let me be the one who has your back. Let me prove that this isn't just pretty words or empty promises. Give me a chance to show you that what we have, whatever it is worth fighting for. Maya looked into his eyes and saw everything she wanted and everything she feared. The possibility of real love, the certainty of continued pain, the risk of trusting someone with the broken, messy, beautiful parts of herself. If this moment touched your heart, tell me from which place in the world you're listening. If I do this, she said slowly, if I give us a real chance, no more arrangements, no more payments, no more performances, you have to promise me something. Anything. Promise me that the first time it gets too hard, the first time the press gets too vicious or your team tells you I'm bad for your image, you won't just disappear. Promise me you'll fight. Because I can handle a lot of things, Ethan, but I can't handle being abandoned again. The pain in her voice was raw, and Ethan understood immediately. Her father, gone to prison, and then dead. Her mother, lost to Alzheimer's. Every person who should have stayed but didn't. I promise, he said, his voice steady and sure. I will fight for you, for us, every single day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Maya searched his face for any hint of performance, any trace of the polished actor, but all she saw was the man, flawed, honest, and absolutely sincere. Okay, she whispered. Okay, let's try. For real this time. Ethan's smile was like sunrise breaking through storm clouds. Yeah, but we do it my way too. No more secrets, no more strategies. We figure this out together, or we don't do it at all. Deal. And then Ethan Cole, movie star and professional performer, did the most genuine thing Maya had ever seen him do. He kissed her, not for cameras, not for show, just because he wanted to, because she was real, and he was real, and this moment was theirs alone. Maya kissed him back, and for the first time since this entire crazy journey began, she felt like herself. Not poor Maya trying to survive, not fake girlfriend Maya performing for the public, just Maya, Messy, complicated, beautiful Maya, and it was enough. The next morning, Maya woke up in the Chelsea apartment with Lily shaking her shoulder urgently. Maya, wake up. You need to see this. Maya groaned, her head fuzzy from too little sleep and too much emotion. Lil, it's too early. Just look. Lily shoved her phone in Maya's face. Maya blinked at the screen, her brain slowly processing what she was seeing. It was a video, posted to Ethan's Instagram an hour ago. The thumbnail showed him sitting in what looked like his home office, wearing a simple t-shirt, hair unstyled, no makeup, just him. Maya pressed play. Hi everyone, Ethan here. I know you're all waiting for a statement about last night's incident at the charity gala, so I'm just going to tell you the truth. All of it. Maya's breath caught. Maya Torres and I did meet through a companion app. I did pay her to attend events with me. Vanessa was right about that. But what she got wrong, what everyone has gotten wrong, is the story behind it. Ethan leaned forward, his expression open and vulnerable. I was lonely. I was surrounded by people who wanted things from me. My name, my money, my influence, but nobody who just wanted to know me. So I made a desperate, imperfect decision to hire someone for honest conversation. And I found Maya. He smiled slightly. Maya didn't know what she was walking into. She took a risk because she needed money to take care of her family. And there's no shame in that. What started as a transaction became the most genuine relationship I've had in years. She didn't want anything from me except honesty, and she gave me the same in return. Did we handle it perfectly? No. Did we make mistakes? Absolutely. But the feelings that developed, those are real. She's real. And I'm not going to let anyone make her feel ashamed for doing what she had to do to survive, or for giving a lonely guy a chance at genuine human connection. Ethan's eyes looked directly into the camera. So if you want to judge someone, judge me. I'm the one with all the power and privilege in this situation. I'm the one who could have just been honest from the start. But Maya, she's the strongest, most compassionate person I know. And I'm grateful every day that she took that risk. He paused. We're going to keep seeing each other. For real this time. Not for show, not for publicity, just because we want to. And if that bothers you, I respect that. But my personal life is going to stay personal from now on. Thanks for understanding. The video ended. Maya stared at the phone, tears streaming down her face. He just told the whole world, Lily breathed. He didn't hide anything. Maya scrolled to the comments. There were already thousands. This is the most honest thing I've ever seen a celebrity post. Okay, I judged her hard, but this actually makes me respect both of them. The fact that he's taking responsibility instead of throwing her under the bus, that's real. Still think it's weird, but at least he's being honest. I'm crying. This is actually beautiful. The opinions were mixed, but the tone had shifted. Ethan had stripped away the performance, admitted the truth, and somehow, impossibly, it was working. Maya's phone rang. Ethan, she answered. Did you really just tell the internet everything? Yeah. I figured if we were doing this for real, we might as well start with radical honesty. She could hear the smile in his voice. Too much? Maya laughed through her tears. Way too much. You're insane. Probably, but I promised I'd fight for you. This felt like a good start. What happens now? Now? Ethan's voice softened. Now we live our lives. Together. For real. No scripts, no strategies. Just us figuring it out as we go. That sounds terrifying. Yeah, but also kind of perfect. Maya looked at Lily, who was grinning and giving her an enthusiastic thumbs up. She thought about her mother in the nursing home, about the bills that were finally paid, about the weight that had lifted from her shoulders. But mostly, she thought about the man on the other end of the phone, the one who'd seen her at her most vulnerable and hadn't looked away, the one who was willing to expose his own flaws to protect her, the one who'd kept his promise. Okay, Maya said, let's do this for real. For real, Ethan echoed. And for the first time in her life, Maya Torres believed that maybe, just maybe, she deserved a happy ending, not because she'd performed well enough or earned it through suffering, but simply because she'd been brave enough to be honest, and lucky enough to find someone who loved her for it. 6 months later, Maya stood in the kitchen of her new apartment, not the Chelsea safe house, but a real place she and Lily had chosen together, modest by Manhattan standards, but theirs, paid for with money she'd earned from a new job at a publishing house Andrea had connected her to, not charity, an actual position where her work ethic and intelligence mattered more than her background. Ethan was at the stove, attempting to make pancakes and failing spectacularly. Lily sat at the counter, video chatting with a friend from her new school, a better school, one where she thrived. You're burning them again, Maya said, peering over his shoulder. I'm creating a rustic charred aesthetic, Ethan corrected, flipping a pancake that was definitely black on one side. That's disgusting. Your face is disgusting. Wow. Truly, your screenwriters are brilliant. They both laughed, and Lily made a gagging sound. You two are gross. You love it, Maya shot back. Unfortunately, Lily muttered, but she was smiling. The internet had eventually moved on, as it always did. There were still occasional articles, still people who judged them, still moments when the past resurfaced, but they'd built something real in the aftermath, something that could withstand scrutiny because it was rooted in honesty. Vanessa had gone quiet after her own reputation took a hit. Turned out publicly humiliating someone at a charity event didn't play well, even in Hollywood. Last Maya had heard, she'd moved to London to do theater. Marcus had become a genuine friend, hosting dinners where Maya actually felt comfortable. Andrea had softened too, impressed by how Maya had handled the crisis with grace. And Ethan? He'd kept his promise. Every single day. Hey, he said now, abandoning the burning pancakes to wrap his arms around Maya from behind. What are you thinking about? How strange life is. 6 months ago, I was terrified and broke and convinced I'd never have anything good. And now? Maya turned in his arms, looking up at the man who'd hired her for a fake date and ended up giving her a real life. Now I'm just grateful for all of it, even the hard parts. Even Vanessa? Especially Vanessa. She gave us no choice but to be honest. Ethan kissed her forehead. I love you, Maya Torres. I love you too, Ethan Cole. Seriously, Lily called out. The pancakes are on fire. They both turned to see smoke rising from the stove. Shit! Ethan lunged for the pan. Maya laughed, really laughed, the kind that came from deep in her chest and felt like freedom. Because this was real. The burnt pancakes, the chaotic mornings, the quiet moments, the imperfect life they were building together. No performances, no scripts, no lies. Just two people who'd been brave enough to be honest and lucky enough to find love in the aftermath. And that, Maya thought as she helped Ethan salvage breakfast while Lily documented their disaster on her phone, was better than any fairy tale could ever be.